Hello friends, today's lecture is on government responses to promotion and protection of rights of the minorities. India is a multicultural society comprising several major and minor religions, languages and ethnic groups. India has upheld a long tradition of coexistence among people of different stocks, different religions, faiths and cultural beliefs, customs and languages. What holds this diverse society is the dictum of unity in diversity, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The Constitution of India has not only upheld the long secular tradition where people of many faiths have lived together in harmony, but also makes special provisions to protect the educational and cultural rights of all minorities, religious and linguistic. Articles 29 and 30 of the Constitution of India guarantee the rights of the minorities, religious and linguistic. Articles 29 and 30 of the Constitution of India guarantee the rights of the minorities to conserve the language, script and culture and to establish and administer education institutions of their choice, whether based on religion or language. Indian government has responded in numerous ways to promote and protect the rights of the minorities since independence. Now let's move on to planned development of minorities. The process of planned development, guided by the Constitution and framed by 5 years plans, has affected every section of the Indian population irrespective of community, caste or class. In the initial years, a separate focus on minorities was not considered necessary. However, from time to time, a special thrust was provided for minorities. This additional thrust has become more prominent since 2001 and with the 10th 5-year plan 2002 to 2007. The 10th plan 2002 to 2007 outlined specific protective and promotional measures for minorities in educational and economic spheres. Exclusive efforts were made to promote the educational development of Muslims, especially of their women and girl children, by modernizing and mainstreaming their traditional educational system and institutions. The 11th plan 2007 to 2012 provided an opportunity to restructure policies to achieve new vision based on fast, more broad-based and inclusive growth. It aimed to reduce disparities across regions and communities by ensuring access to basic physical infrastructure as well as health and education services to all. The 11th plan was committed to bringing on par scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, minorities and others left behind in line with our constitutional commitment. In the 12th plan 2012 to 2017, Multi-Sectoral Development Program MSDP was conceived as a special initiative of the follow-up action on the SASAR committee recommendations. It is an area development initiative to address the development deficits of minority concentration areas by creating socio-economic infrastructure and providing basic amenities, provision of better infrastructure for education, besides schemes for income generating opportunities. Now let's move on to initiatives taken for development of minorities. Number 1, in 1983, a high-power panel was appointed by the Ministry of Home Affairs headed by Dr. Gopal Singh. This committee identified Muslims and Neo-Buddhists as two educationally backward minorities at the national level and proposed special efforts for bringing them at par with the rest of the society. Number 2, in May 1983, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi issued a 15-point directive on welfare of minorities. The program focused on priority areas such as the need to tackle the situation arising out of communal riots and preventing further communal riots, ensure adequate representation of minority communities in employment under central and state as well as public sector undertakings, ensuring flow of benefits to the minority communities under various development programs such as maintenance and development of religious places, Wakf properties and redressal of grievances of the minorities. Number 3, the need to take special steps to advance education of Muslims was noted in the National Policy of Education 1986, its program of action revised in 1992 and led to the formulation of the Area Intensive Educational Development for Educationally Backward Minorities as a central government scheme of the Ministry of Human Resource Development. The policy recognized the need for giving greater attention to the education of the minority groups in the interest of equality and social justice. Number 4, a high-level committee on social, economic and educational status of Muslim community in India was set up in 2005 under the chairmanship of Justice Rajinder Sachar, and the committee submitted its report in November 2006. This committee noted with concern the low socio-economic status with higher poverty, lower literacy and educational attainments, higher unemployment rates, lower availability of infrastructure and lower representation in civil services including police, judiciary and in elected bodies among Muslim minority. Number 5, it was felt that there were gaps in the previous program with regard to amelioration of socio-economic conditions and enhancement of socio-economic status of the minority groups. With a view to removing this lacuna, the Prime Minister's new 15-point program for welfare of minorities was formulated and approved by the Cabinet on 22 June 2006. It provides that care shall be taken to ensure that wherever applicable, there is separate earmarking of physical and financial targets for the minority communities under its program scheme, preferably in the ratio of the all India population of its minority community. Now, let us move down to institutional structures for the development of minorities. There are 7 institutions solely devoted for the development of the minorities. Number 1, the Minorities Commission was set up in 1978, but with the enactment of the National Commission for Minorities Act, it became statutory body in 1993 known as the National Commission for Minorities. Number 2, The National Minorities Development and Finance Corporation (NMDFC) was set up in 1994 to provide special focus to the economic development of minorities. Number 3, the Maulana Azad Education Foundation, set up in 1989, promotes education among educationally backward minorities. Number 4, the Central Wakf Council, set up in 1995, implements various charity and educational programs for weaker sections of Muslims. Number 5, the National Council for Promotion of Urdu Language is responsible for promotion of Urdu language. It helps to establish a link between the Urdu-speaking population with technical and vocational education. Number 6, National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions was set up in 2004 to advise the center and state governments on any matter regarding the education of minorities, as also to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. Number 7, the National Monitoring Committee for Minorities Education was reconstituted in August 2004 and has been meeting periodically since then. Now let's move on to educational empowerment. Various educational schemes aim at betterment of the weaker sections of the society, including minorities, are briefly discussed below. The National Literacy Mission, set up in 1988, aimed at attaining a high and sustainable literacy level for the Indian population, especially the minorities, by means of an integrated approach. Midday Meal Scheme, or the National Program of Nutritional Support to Primary Education, launched in 1995, this scheme is serving a dual purpose: raising the nutritional level of children and enhancing school admission and retention levels. Kendriya Vidyalayas and Navodaya Vidyalayas and National Institute of Open Schooling reserve seats in favor of children belonging to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in proportion to their population in the concerned district to a maximum of 50%. In addition to the general educational schemes available to all sections of society, there are certain schemes specifically designed for financial assistance and others to the minorities, such as community polytechnic schemes, specific interventions for educational advancement of minority groups, scheme of area intensive program for educationally backward minorities, and the scheme of financial assistance for modernization of madrasas education and Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, universalization of elementary education in the age group of 6 to 14 years. Now let's move down to economic empowerment. Economic empowerment of weaker sections of the society comprising scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes and minorities is a priority area for the government. All the schemes applicable to all sections of the population also carry provisions for economic empowerment of the minority communities. For example, Savarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana (SGSY), launched in 1999, is a major self-employment program. Its guidelines stipulates that at least 50% of the beneficiaries will be scheduled castes or scheduled tribes. 40% women, and 3% disabled. Other prominent schemes include Rural Employment Generation Program (REGP), Prime Minister's Rozgar Yojana (PMRY), Sampurna Gramin Rozgar Yojana (SGRY), National Food for Work Program and FFWP, and Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act MNREGA, etc. Enhancing employment potential in agricultural sector. An essential requirement for accelerated agricultural growth is the timely availability of institutional credit in a hassle-free manner at a reduced rate of interest. In line with this requirement, the government announced a comprehensive policy in June 2004. The measures envisaged include accelerated flow of agri-credit to farmers through banks, enhancement of coverage of institutional credit through Kisan credit card scheme, and a one-time settlement scheme for small and marginal farmers who have been declared defaulters and have become ineligible for fresh credit. Enhancing employment potential in industrial sector. Various schemes of the central government aim to reorient employment opportunities to enable weaker sections of the society to face the challenges of economic reforms and expanding private sector through equipping them with suitable technical skills, appropriate technologies, and opportunities for vocational training. A substantial proportion of the traditional artisans in such industries belong to minorities, particularly the Muslim community. Specialized financial institutions. The National Minorities Development and Finance Corporation, set up in 1992, provides special focus to economic development of the backward sections among minorities. National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development (NABARD) was set up by the central government as a developmental bank with the objective of facilitating credit flow to agriculture, rural industries and crafts, and promote integrated rural development. It has various programs for upliftment of weaker sections of society and people living below the poverty line. Small Industrial Development Bank of India (SIDBI) was established in 1990 as the principal institution for financing and development of small-scale industry (SSI). Any individual or organization in the small-scale industry sector, including minority community organizations, can obtain financial assistance for setting up new small-scale units and for expansion, modernization and diversification. Rashtriya Mahila Kosh (RMK) was set up in 1993 by the central government. It promotes activities for provision of credit to women irrespective of caste or religion from poor households as an instrument of socio-economic change through a package of financial and social developmental services. Now let's move down to social justice. Social justice measures for the weaker sections of society include legal measures that ensure protection of civil rights and curb social discrimination. The Protection of Civil Rights (PCR Act 1955) and the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocities (POA Act 1989) are two important pieces of legislation that address the problems of social discrimination, untouchability, and of exploitation and atrocities against disadvantaged groups. Special courts, mobile courts are provided for under this Act for on-spot trials and speedy disposal of cases. 19 states have appointed special officers, squads, cells to ensure effective implementation of the Act. Implementation and monitoring of the 20-point program for ensuring social justice to scheduled castes and the 15-point program for protection and development of minorities is underway. This includes implementation of the three-pronged strategy of awareness generation by number 1, changing the general mindset and attitudes towards the weaker sections. Number 2, conscientization of the target groups to make them conscious of their own rights, privileges, and governmental support available for them, emphasizing a participatory approach. And number 3, sensitizing both officials and non-officials with special training program so that they can work with the right perspective to meet the special needs of the minority groups. In addition, existing commissions for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward castes, minorities, and Safai Karmacharis are taking steps to safeguard the rights and interests of these groups and ensure social justice. For example, the National Commission for Minorities has from time to time taken up the cause of sensitizing the defense and the police services personnel to issues affecting maintenance of peace within the communities. This relates to prevention and handling of riots and also the capacity to understand and appreciate others' point of view. Secularism can best be implemented when people are committed to principles of equality, social justice, and respect for diversities. Indian secularism emphasizes absolute and unconditional equality of all religious faiths in the country. The framework of religious and cultural pluralism is being consciously preserved so that India continues to have a mosaic of different religions, cultures, and languages. While the government is taking a very wide range of measures for the welfare and development of the weaker sections of the society, their empowerment through education and economic development remains low. Further, there is the challenge of regional dimension of development. Although the weaker sections of society, including the backwards among minorities, have gained from the plethora of developmental measures adopted since independence for their welfare, the reach is inadequate. It is important to identify gaps in the overall endeavors to bring about all-round development of weaker sections of the society. Thank you.